And so that was an experience for me. And after a day, suddenly she said, not many people understood English. Today you take in Hindi. So I took another session in that Sah Samadhi in Hindi about all the brain aspects. And to tell you, last 1 year, again the scenario has changed as far as research is concerned. Every day, every week, every month, there are different things coming up. Let us see how it goes tomorrow. I think today, and I will be needing time. I think today, since I don't know, 20, 25 minutes of my, then we can take question answers. I think that will be fine, Swamiji. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because it's a very long topic. Let
Yeah.
me see.
Oh, we
And
have Dr.
actually,
Singh. Sorry.
actually, when I wrote to you in the message, I have downloaded a lot of things. Actually, I did not download from the computer. I was just sitting 2 days ago, 3 days ago in the morning. 4:30, I got up. I started writing few things I'm going to discuss today. Those things also. Suddenly, something came out, and we'll be writing those things also today. We'll be discussing those things also.
So,
That was the
Dr.
download. That was the download. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
No problem. Dr. Singhvi, we are so happy to tell everybody Dr. Nilay is also there with us today. And Dr. Nilay
Hi.
is a super specialist cardiologist. And I know him personally. So he's also going to join the session today. Thank you, Dr. Nilay, for joining us.
Thank
So,
you, Swamiji. Thank you, sir.
Himali and Anupama goes to you now.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, everyone, and good evening as well. So, it's my pleasure to moderate today's session. So, I am Anupama, and behalf of Flip the Idea with Swamiji Shivpad's session, I welcome you all. We appreciate that you're taking time off your busy schedule to join us today. We hope that we can bring a positive change in all your lives with today's session. So today in the 21st episode of Flip the Idea with Swami Shivpadji, we'll be deeply understanding meditation. And for this, we have invited our special guest, Dr. J.P. Singhvi with us, who is one of the best neurologists in India. So, I'll give you a brief introduction about, Dr. Singhvi. So he has done MBBS, MD, and DM in neurology. He was a fellow at American Academy of Neurology. He has experience of treating neurological patients in leading hospitals like Fortis, CGI, and Nanavati hospitals. He has been chairperson at various prestigious international and national conferences. He is specialized in acute stroke management, epilepsy, headaches, etc. He has done a lot of lectures, locally and internationally. So he's visited more than 26 countries.
Anupama, please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Am I audible? Am I audible now?
Yes, Anupama. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. So I was saying that Dr. Singhvi has, visited more than 26 countries and delivered, lectures on stroke, migraine, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, neurology, emergency management, neuropathy, and sleep disorders. So he has published a lot of books, research papers, and he's also, wrote articles for leading journals like Indian Journal of Neurology. So we welcome you, Dr. Singhvi, and thank you for joining us, today. We are happy to see you again. So I'll be sharing, today's session as, Dr. JP, we also, shared this, that we'll be having a 40-minute session, where Dr. will be delivering his, expertise on the topic. And then we'll be taking questions in the last 20 minutes. So what I request all of you is to, share your questions in advance in chat. So we'll be happy to go take them. So with this, I'll open it to Swami Shivpatji, to you. So if you can open with your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Anupama. Thank you so much. It was so nice. And we are so happy to have Dr. Singhvi and Dr. Nilay together with us. So, Dr. Singhvi, it goes to you. Everything is now with you. Please. And Himali.
Yeah. Thank you, and greetings from India to everybody across the planet. You know, it is so, I'm so happy to be with you and sharing my experience with all of you on a very, very important topic, that is meditation. Let me share my presentation today. You know, the subject itself, meditation, it is, you know, the important point about this is, before I could start, I want to tell you very clearly that meditation are of two types. One is real meditation. One is meditation when we speak in the course and ask the participant what is meditation. Everybody will start telling, focusing, focusing on a light, focusing on a sound, concentrating on a thought, positive thoughts. These all four, you forget about lights, candles, you forget about any thoughts, you forget about crystals. Those things are irrelevant because they are not actually meditation. They are pre-meditation. Meditation is actually going beyond what we actually everybody think about, the concentrating on something. The aspect here is how meditation brings about changes in our life, and in particular, brain and its architecture. See, if you go through the literature, it is time immemorial, very ancient. Meditation is very ancient, but it is ever new also. The first compilation, good compilation, was given by the sage Patanjali. And in that, he has given us 8 limbs, what we call as Ashtanga Yoga. The 7th limb is Dhyan. In English, that is meditation. We are going to discuss about meditation today, and we are going to leave other 7 limbs for some other day. You know, if you see this brain, it is not very pretty, you see. Everybody can see it's not very pretty. You know, it's gray, white, pink, black, looks very ugly. But if you dive within, it is very mysterious, and it is not completely explored till date, even with the advanced technology. You know, to tell you such a complex topic in a simple way, it will be a very, very uphill and a complex task for me. But let me see how I make the day today for you and for myself. If you see this brain, the second cartoon, basically it is divided into 4 lobes: the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. Why I have told this is, whatever we do in our life, the 5 senses, Everything is represented there. I am moving the limb, there is a representation. My intelligence is represented. My thought system, the analyzing capacity is represented. Every aspect of our life is correspondingly, represented there. And the way we study, like if you see the internal structure, this is just a simple, quantitative MRI study where we measure the thickness of the brain of various structures. And now this is a recent brain mapping structure which was published 7th of June by Google Brain Mapping Technique. This is so interesting. If you see this center area, a single brain cell is there, single. And it has got 4,000 connections. 4,000 connections on a single neuron. The cell of the brain is called as a neuron. There are 4,000 nerve cells which are coming here. And if I tell you there are 100 billion cells, it is mind-boggling. 100 billion cells. And this, if you take a simple small piece of this, how these are connected and how a connection is interconnected and all the activities are going on. To tell you in a simple way how we study the brain. One is we see the structure by doing MRI. We study its activity whenever, whatever action we do by doing a functional, MRI. Third, brain is an electrical circuit. Everything is electrical there, and we can record this on the skull. We can put it, the electrodes. We can put the electrodes there, and you can, really study that. One of the slides which I am going to show is a very, very interesting slide which is coming up. Number 4, we can study the neurochemicals and hormones. And finally, we can study the approach of a person towards life. See, we do two things. One is negative aspect, that is restlessness, depression, loss of memory, anxiety. Everybody discusses in all the forum of yoga, what are the negative things? You are having depression, are you suffering from memory loss, restlessness, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder? But today, not only this, I'm going to discuss the positive aspect, happiness, good memory, compassion, emotional intelligence as well. And that's going to be very crux of today's talk, which is going to be there. And why I brought this figure, this is a very, very basic thing that, like we do, people, when a surgeon does a surgery, he will do a pre-anesthetic checkup, pre-surgical checkup to see that he is fit for surgery. Same thing when we sit for meditation, we have to see whether our body is fit for meditation. And these two nostrils which are connecting the brain, they will tell you whether your meditation is going to be good or not. If your right nostril is working, the left nostril is a little blocked or not having a breathing, it means you are going to get a lot of thoughts, analysis, logic, reasoning, everything will come up because this right nostril, if you see, it's connected to the left brain. Same thing, if the right nostril is not functioning, the left nostril is functioning, you may feel sleepy during meditation. The meditation will not be very good for you. That's why there is something called as Nadi Shodhan Pranayam, which balances the right and left part of the brain. And this is my first interesting circuit of the brain, that is a corpus callosum. The area, if you see the marked area yellow, it connects the right and left side of the brain. It bridges the right and left hemisphere of the brain, and it transfers the signals either way so that both are balanced. So once both are balanced, what you get is it boosts creativity and brain power, and your meditation is going to be fantastic. This is a prerequisite. When you do meditation, you need right technique, right, method, proper understanding, proper practice, and proper circumstances. Then once you sit, you need these both event, that your right and left brain is balanced, so you can go deeper. If you see this, I am sitting and meditating in my lab. There are a lot of wires which are put up here. And what we have recorded is the activity here. This is an electrical activity we are recording. We record the frequency and calculate what type of waves there are. You see, these are two different types of waves. They are waves. They are very obvious. One is slightly amplitude is high, but the frequency is less. But the other one is, if you see, the frequency is very high, fast frequency. What does it mean? When these are the classification of the brain wave, which you don't take it literally, just understand this. Because when meditation happens, these waves come and go, but we are not working in meditation to get these waves. These waves are the end product which we are recording and analyzing and interpreting. So if we get alpha waves, the middle one, it is a physically and mentally relaxed state when these alpha waves are coming. But when we are focusing, like in other meditations, you see, they will focus on a light, they will focus on a sound, they will focus on compassion, they will focus on some article or some visual memory, then their beta activity is fast because there is some amount of thinking and excitement there. But if you go deeper, the waves go slow. That is called as theta waves, which makes creativity, insight, deep meditation occur. And when it goes much slower, you go into sleep. So in meditation, you see, lot of thoughts will come. Your body and mind get relaxed. Sometimes you are dreaming, sometimes you are in deep meditation. But people who go very deep in meditation or long-standing meditators, they can show this fast gamma activities, more than 30. Heightened perception, learning, problem-solving tasks, and better cognitive processing. So when we do meditation, the fibers which are there, their connection increases, their connectivity gets better, and you get a personality which is much higher than an ordinary. And see, the another interesting thing which I have brought out is the space. The people who go in the space and people who are lonely at home, they face this problem of frustration, loneliness, anxiety, and depression. See, when the person is lonely, there is one area of the brain, here it is, the parietal lobe. It gets heated up, overheated. So whenever man feels separated, it gets overheated. And when meditation occurs, this is the first area which gets cooled off, and it cancels out the detrimental mental, emotional, and physical effects of loneliness. because it is shown in that three-dimensional figure. Really the blood supply there goes down, it cools off. Because human being, if you see, he wants good rest, good exercise, and good health. That is he's striving. But beyond that, he also needs physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And how does it come? It comes through connectedness. We are connected to each other, and the parietal lobe is the area for this connectivity. When the connection is not good, it gets boiled. And now the positive aspect. Compassion is how you see others person's problem and try to, solve them, or maybe feeling about that struggling person. And there is an area in the brain, people who practice compassion, there is an area by the name of anterior insula. There, the internal architecture, I am telling you, internal architecture means the thickness, the volume, the density, everything increases in that compassion area. And one who meditates will develop compassion. Suddenly one day somebody reads philosophically that I should practice compassion, will not come. Maybe a very once in a while, his genome may be like that, he may come up with compassion. But to have compassion, that area of the brain should be active, and that comes through meditation. That brings true happiness. We always think that we cannot regenerate brain. By doing meditation, the neuroplasticity, the connection will increase. Not only that connection increase, we can harness that energy and channelize that energy in a particular direction. So basically what I meant is, we try to, when we develop happiness among ourselves and spread happiness, we may not get a Nobel Prize for that. But the contentment which we get because of that, it is beyond comparison. That's why in life say, achieving something is not a big thing, but having compassion is a great thing. And that brings by this meditation and this insular cortex. Another aspect is, we are all born with certain intelligence, what we call as intelligent quotient. It's a relative term. We compare with certain study that how much IQ this man is having, this person is having, this woman is having. But emotional intelligence is one where you understand your own emotions and others' emotions to bring a great quality among yourself. Like you are in an office. If you have a great leadership quality, team building, understanding other people's problems and understanding your own negativity, your emotional intelligence is higher. And people who are having this emotional instability, when they did meditation, within a matter of 6 weeks, there is area of the brain called as temporoparietal junction. Just to give you this idea, the red circle which is there in the second diagram, that area becomes very thick, and that is the area for emotional intelligence. And people who are good meditators for a longer period, they have this excellent emotional intelligence. Because in intelligent quotient, some intelligence is required to get into the job, but to remain there, one has to have a great emotional intelligence. Then again, the negative aspect which comes. See, we are always bothered with the, fear, the memory loss, the depression. Our intuition is less. We are less than the other person. That always bugs us. See, 10,000 years ago, when people were residing in jungles, in the cave, what problems they had? They had problems about lion or tiger killing them or snake biting them. they had a fear of those things. But you think that fear has gone now? We are in our buildings, but we have different type of stress. The work stress, the financial stress, and a lot of other stress which are there. The cave is always there with us. We have to remove that cave from that caveman. And meditation makes that, cave out of the caveman. How? This is the area what we call as amygdala. If you see this is the area of fear and emotions. They have found out that when they did meditation regularly, the internal consistency dropped, the firing decreased in this area, and they get emotionally stabilized in amygdala. That's a very, very important thing in pranayam and meditation which occurs. This is how meditation works. Then second area is, hippocampus. And even they have tested the electrical activity there. Meditation has effectively silenced that electrical activity. And they have seen that the subject has fewer, anxiety, worry, and fear signals from there. And, there is a curious case of shrinking hippocampus. I remember Gurudev speaking about scars on the hippocampus, people who are depressed and having a memory loss. And when they did this meditation regularly, within 8 weeks, both the left and right significantly grow in neural thickness, density, and overall size. And depression, however deep it is, just like a tire stuck in the deep mud, however deep it is, the meditation will remove that depression, however deep it is. This is the significance of the meditation and hippocampus. And this hippocampus is also the area of memory. When they did meditation, the scar disappeared. Actually, we actually don't see those scars. They are all the connections which gets disrupted. And just like a potter make the pots and shape the clays, same thing, meditation shape the hippocampus for a better learning, better memory, and the brain becomes much more beautiful. A study which is done in Harvard, they have found out that the area in the brain by the name of prefrontal cortex. Just understand this area. This is the area of higher thoughts, decision-making capabilities, deeper thinking, multitasking, and complex decision, whatever has to be taken. It comes from this prefrontal cortex area. And this landmark study has shown that when they meditated, they found out that the circulation in that area, in the prefrontal cortex, improved. The functional MRI. They did functional MRI and they found out not only circulation, but in quantitative MRI, the internal structure changed for a better thing. And what does it mean? It means the connections have increased so much, so robust they became. The moment the person have a thought, everything is processed so fast. It is so complex. And that's where when the Einstein's brain postmortem was available to us, they found out that his prefrontal cortex was very, very thick, like a squash ball, that thick. And another aspect is the sleep center. The meditation will end the insomnia, because when you do meditation, the area of sleep is the pons. This pons area gets channelized and the person gets deep NREM sleep. That's one of the stage of sleep. And the sleep is so deep, within 6 hours, all the repair works which happen in the sleep will be over, and the person gets awake easily, and 18 hours he is charged up. That's why people who sleep for 4 hours, 6 hours, their NREM sleep only 2 hours is needed in the night. If NREM sleep 2 hours is over, 22 hours he can be awake, charged. But usually it doesn't happen. When we start sleeping, it doesn't go into NREM sleep. It takes certain time. So this is another thing. That's what they have found out, that in both Harvard and Stanford University, the pawns become big and strong. And this is a very, very interesting, and most, before I end in next couple of slides, there is something called as default mode network. You know, I am sitting and doing nothing. I am not aware of all those things, but somebody is running me. A cow is sitting in the shed. A horse is standing in the shed, stable. It is doing nothing, but still something is running it. The life is going on. Some thought is going on in that. And you know, when we do nothing, not the nothingness of meditation, it is unaware we are doing automatic things. Like a question was put up to various people, text was given. How much aware of things you are in whatever you do in life? They say 40 to 44% of the time is spent without awareness. It means if somebody is alive for 100 years, 42 to 44 years is gone without any knowledge of that person is living. And 1/3 of the thing is gone in sleep. And you know, the limit is very less. And in those people, it has been said that this default mode network is active automatically. You know, nature makes it, has to run the show, it will run the show. But people who are aware and live a aware life, their activity in this default mode network system is very less. They don't they are no more robots. You know, they have their own GPS system, their own trajectory. They walk their life according to their wills and, you know, a positive life. That's why I brought this default mode network. And this is how the functional MRI of default mode network is seen. So when we meditate regularly, our understanding about the brain, because the photograph which I have shown from the Google Brain Map, that was a single cell. They say they have 50,000 cells. Brain is 100 billion cells. They have 50 billion cells. To analyze that data, it will take 10 to 20 years. Because, you know, the data which is there, it is 1 petabyte, which is equal to the storage capacity of 700 ordinary routine computers, 700 computers. And on that, if you see, imagine 100 billion cells, at least it will not take lifetime, it will take life's time to go into the depth. And simultaneously, the brain is a dynamic thing. One connection, that is called as tendrils. The connections, the fibers, they are called tendrils. They have 1 to 5 communications. But according to the whims and fancies and meditation and the qualities of a person, that particular area will get connections. A good musician is there, he will get different connection. If a good teacher is there, is a good, connections are different. So overall, I have made a gist of this. Now you can imagine how difficult is the brain to understand. So only to end the thing, you be content with better focus, less anxiety, more creativity, more compassion, better memory, less stress. More gray matter means anti-aging property also. So whenever you meditate, what happens? Everything, the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, all the sensory inputs, they go significantly down, almost becomes zero according to your duration of meditation which you are doing. That's why in the Sanskrit they say meditation, when you practice, it needs, you know, Dirghakala Nirantara Ekatattva Abhyasa Satkara Sevita. It means you have to practice for very long period, right technique, with reverence, with good faith, and properly, and for a longer period, and with reverence. Then you may get a gift of all those things. With that, I hand over. Thank you so much. I am ending the presentation.
Amazing. That was unbelievable. It was so mesmerizing. Thank you so much for this beautiful presentation. So now, our moderators, would you like to ask some questions, or you have anything else?
Thank you, Doctor. That was fantastic. There is one question that I definitely do have, and it's a question that I've noticed also being an Art of Living teacher, is that when you say meditation has a huge impact on how one deals with stress, I've also noticed the opposite, where I've seen a lot of people that, despite meditating, still suffer with anxiety, stress, and although they appear to be happy, they're generally not very happy. And they've come, or they've actually acknowledged that, yes, they have issues that they can't deal with. So how does that work?
Very interesting thing which comes up. When we sit during meditation, we get a lot of memories, we get a lot of visions, we get a lot of images, we get all sorts of thoughts which are there. Actually, in meditation, all these things are processed and set aside and taken for a rest. A person who is meditating regularly still is having these thoughts. It means the amount of store, the amount of connections which he has made with the negative things in the life or lifetimes, that is coming again and again. But meditation is actually setting aside all those things and setting it right. It means if the person is regularly doing it and still is getting it, it means it is good thing. Let him continue. Over a period of time, things will come up. See, to explain you, there are few uneducated patients come to me. They said, I have fits. That's a epilepsy patients. We make them to make a diary, how many fits they have got in last 3 months. I write a prescription and they say, they think that with medicine, everything will go off. Then I say to chart out all the things. And when they chart out, the average per month seizure, if they were 4, it means 4, 6 are 24. At 6 months, they had 24. Then next, once the medicine is started, their average dropped to 2. It means they had 12. But the uneducated person thinks that I'm still getting the fits, I'm taking medicines. Same thing happens with meditation also. Many people are unaware that when they do meditation, it is having a positive impact. The impact, it may not be 100%, but it is happening.
Thank you, Doctor. I think that answers the question. Swamiji, I don't know if you would like to add additionally to that from a spiritual point of view as well. You're on mute, Swamiji.
Yeah. I believe that on spiritual path, of course, the spirituality, many times people they have different understanding about spirituality. Like they think that a few days of meditation, few months of meditation, or few years of meditation will set right everything. But I don't think this is the way. As Dr. Singhvi already said, Patanjali said, Nirantara Satkara Sevita Satadirgha Kala. With the right intensity, intention, and honesty, you have to practice it for a long time. So I have a question to Dr. Singhvi. When we have such a rich culture of meditation, pranayama, and all these things in our country, where it's a different question. Like I'm sorry if it goes in another way. What happened actually? Why we are many of the most of the people, they are not aware of these meditations, and they are not aware of all such wonderful thing happens during meditation. Why we are not convincing people? What is there, what is the dealing thing? What is missing? What is the bridge is missing? Why people are not coming? Of course nowadays people are still coming, but still we have a huge amount of mental problems and depression, psychosomatic problems. Why people are not taking it seriously?
Basically, it's a lack of awareness. And also, there are a lot of things which spread across. They believe more in the medicines rather than meditation. It means education is the only way. You keep on approaching various people, and people want scientific evidence whether it works or not works. Because youngsters, particularly nowadays, all IT companies everywhere, why we do the way we do, this is the most important. And what is the evidence? These two questions they will ask. Why we do the way we do, and what is the evidence? Once the studies come across, like so many studies I have put up today, if scientific thing comes up, it means people who are teaching meditation should also have a session of scientific basis why they are doing. See, it is very interesting when people did Sahaj Samadhi meditation, and they say that the mantra which is given acts as a delete button. But that is not enough. Once we do scientific study, then we say that all the images, memories, and all the negativity which comes up during meditation, when we do mantra, they will be processed and set aside, and ultimately made to rest forever. That scientific approach, if it is there nowadays, it will come up. Somewhere it is lost because of the so many invasions and culturals and taboos. And that's the thing, I think.
So, do you think we lost the respect for meditation and our ancient uh, teachings because many of the things are modified, or they are not there actually? We lost them, or they became more professional.
Actually, no, we have actually not lost it. Actually, globalization has got its own positive and negative as well. See, once the globalization comes, lot of things come from the West here. See, the water flows from up and down. If something is coming in huge quantities, all the gadgets, all the clothings, all the food stalls, everything comes up. And also the parents, the elders, they also have a very good role to play with their kids. How young they catch, people, students learn from their elders. We have to walk the talk. If we walk the talk, things will happen. But only thing is we have lost many things because of not only globalization, but the myth spread about the proper thing about the meditation. Many people will start, I ask them to do meditation. They say, I am doing sound meditation. I am doing light meditation. I am doing body meditation. So many things. First, we have to make them realize, since the commercialization is come, huge $1 billion profit has been made because of this. And people want something, easy way out and more widespread advertised brand.
Thank you so much. Yes, back to Himali. You have more questions, I believe.
Somebody has raised a hand.
Yeah.
Myra Khandelwal.
Right. But they are all muted, so they can write their
Okay.
questions.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have few questions from audience. So one of the question is, that why do I fall asleep when I am meditating?
He already answered.
Oh, actually, I have answered, and it is, if you're every time you are sleeping, then it's a problem. Once in a while you are sleeping, it is fine. It means something else is happening in the brain neuroplasticity during the meditation, and your delta waves are more, EEG delta waves are more, and you are sleeping, and simultaneously you have to see whether you had food in last 2 hours, whether you slept previous night properly, or your posture is right, whether you have done the pranayam nadi shodhan properly or not, your both nostrils are, so many things you see. You need right technique, right posture, right place also, and right frame of mind. If it's continuously every day is feeling, there is some issue with that you have to rectify. Yeah.
I believe Dr. Nilay would like to ask something. Nilay, please.
Hi, sir. It was an excellent talk, and thank you very much. This entire topic is very close to my heart, despite me being in cardiology field per se. I have a few questions, sir, which I would want to ask. These days, see, if the brain is all about waves, it's all about chemistry. There is this whole new wave of people trying new psychedelics, to optimize brain health. To even in Silicon Valley, for example, innovators are using it, especially the specific ayahuasca, which has hit the fame in the recent times. I read about this particular thing, which is found in Amazon forest. When I was a kid, it was a very beautiful book called The Cosmic Serpent. So what is your take on this entire field of psychedelics, where I know that meditation is the answer, but people want answers too soon, too fast, for their own benefit, because they get new ideas, they innovate using all these psychedelics, and because it changes the neurochemistry per se. That is question one that I have. I have question two too. V.S. Ramachandra sir had written a book on phantom limbs. And even when you cut the limb, you still feel the limb still there. So is it all illusion? Is it all Maya that we are dealing with? And what is reality? If at all we are just talking about brain chemistry, brain waves, what is reality then? If it is all, then what is the difference between the brain, the physical brain, and the mind? Or is brain also interrelated with the seven layers of existence? If the seventh layer is different from the sixth layer, which is part of brain, can you please just throw some light on these two questions? Thank you.
If somebody has seen the movie Lucy, any medicine, psychedelic, when it is taken, it changes the not only chemistry of the brain, the neuronal connections, as well as the harnessing of the interneurons. Just to explain you, anything which goes in the term of psychedelic, they got some alignment and they get into a paranormal phenomena. When I talk about paranormal phenomena, and if you see, if they take in a small amount, if a poison is taken in a small amount, it can become a medicine. If a medicine is taken in a large amount, it becomes a poison. Same the psychedelic, lot of things happen in the brain neuro alignment, and because of this they study an activity how to control other person, how to become superior, how to take control. It's all about taking control about others. Meditation is actually the reverse. Meditation is knowing yourself. Your compassion, empathy, those are all, let us leave those things. If you know yourself, a single cell connection which I showed had, in that connection they have shown 4,000 fibers were connected, and imagine how much potential information that cell could have had, and 100 billion cells will have. It is mind boggling. And the amount of quantity of, they have gone to zettabyte. Petabyte is when 100 computers, 700. Zettabyte is, say 1 zettabyte means the amount of information the earth will have in 1 year. That's a zettabyte. And you see the brain has got so much information, and when they do all this psychedelic, all the drug, some new things will come up, but ultimately they will become, immediately go down, and it becomes actually negative because they are not without any adverse effect. That is the one thing. That's why they keep on experimenting all those things. Second thing is, everything is a wave function. That is for sure. There is no doubt about it. Because if I am sitting here and suddenly I am thinking, what should I talk and how much time I will take, suddenly some information will come. Swamiji will be calling me. You will be getting 30 minutes talk and 20 minutes we'll be discussing. It means the things have already come. We have not explored the higher self of ours in the form of intuition. People 400 years ago, there is a clear-cut evidence that people are sitting in one temple 400 kilometers away. They used to communicate very easily. Still, it can be done. Third thing is, you're talking about Maya and everything. What is seen is very less. What is not seen is very high. That's why the dark matter, the matter which is there is only 6%. 92 to 94% is all dark energy and dark matter. That is for clear. And it is 100% sure that if an Earth or a planet like Jupiter or anything, without any support, if they are spinning around on their axis without any support, it means the energy which is unseen is much, much bigger than thing. And God or whoever creator has made our body in such a way that it can tolerate that much only. Like, for example, the hearing capacity. We have certain hertz to certain hertz which we can listen. Below this and above that, our eardrums will burst, will rupture. Same thing. The energy which is there cannot be handled by a single entity unless he has got a special grace over a period of time. Like, things fall short in words when we describe an enlightened person. It is nothing. Even the person cannot explain, because there is a fear. Like a drop of water, it will fall in the ocean. It will ask the person who is making it to fall in the ocean, will I make my drop as a presence in the big ocean? He says no. You will become the sea. Then what is the point? I will not be there to see me. What is the point in falling in the sea? But the bigger perspective is actually the drop becomes the sea. I think this much thing I have explained you. I think so many points I have covered.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I always used to feel curious about one thing, that if you ask a fish about the ocean, the fish will never be able to tell anything about the ocean because it doesn't know beyond the ocean. To explain the ocean, the fish will never be able to. Like this, we are made out of 5 elements, and there are two things that are mainly combination of matter and energy. We are all matter and energy. Do you think that the matter which you are talking about, the brain, will be able to understand the energy ever? Staying inside these 5 elements, is it possible to understand which is beyond 5 elements?
It is very difficult to conceive. The 5 elements are a very, very basic things. I don't think it will be able to understand till it reach the point to understand the very existence. And at that point, the matter will not be there. It will be just a witness. It is there to just move around. The matter is there to move around. Because if you see a cell, within the cell, it is a almost it's an empty space. It is an empty space. Our body is actually full of empty space. But when you are talking about to understand this, it is my assumption. It will be difficult to conceive because always I'm falling short of words.
Yeah, I always think like this, both the doctors, Nilay and Dr. Singhvi, that one cell in mother's womb has all the intelligence to create the whole body through mitosis and meiosis cell division. Now, where from the intelligence comes? The cell does not have a brain. The cell, only one cell, and it knows where to create what, how to create the communication system, how to create, the whole structure in a way that every cell is communicated with each other, every cell is independent, then the neurons. So where from this intelligence comes? Who is behind that? So is it that easy to understand? Who is so intelligent, who is creating the whole structure, and it's beyond everything, isn't it?
True, sir. True.
Even understanding a simple 1.5 kg brain is a so difficult task because 100 billion cells and the connections like a galaxy there. I think then the law of karma comes up. Then it will be a infinite regression.
So,
But Swamiji,
yeah, please, Nilay, please
Yeah.
continue.
Swamiji, this is definitely sir's area. But I just read up that, we used to, even when I was in MBBS, we used to read about some cells in the brain called the neuroglial cells. And they were essentially considered useless kind of cells, They don't do much. That's what they used to say. But now they say that the space between the two connections, the neuroglial cells, they are the most important kind of cells. So probably we are going again back to the space theory. But I don't know what sir has to say about it.
The interesting part is when they did brain mapping and all, it was so mysterious that two different group of cells they have found out that they were pointing towards each other like this, exactly in alignment, same. And when they saw this under the electron microscope, they were thinking why these things are pointing towards each other, and they have not solved that issue still. Why these two are pointing towards each other like this in that map? Regarding this, when we are talking about matter and energy, all the space which is there, I think it is appears to be space and empty, but it is full of intelligence.
True. So, before we finish, the final touch that would you like to suggest for everybody, whoever is sitting here, uh, any special meditation techniques or anything which, as a neurologist, you'd like to give us as a takeaway, and which is going to improve everything?
Yeah, I love this Sahaj Samadhi meditation. That is the meditation which it has got every aspect of it. I'll take 1 minute to explain all these things. It has got a thing called where you balance right and left side of the brain. The technique is right because the mantra which is given, it is everybody's experience. It is my experience. A lot of thoughts, connected thoughts comes. The moment you take mantra, things will go in the background. The technique is so perfect that 20 minutes, everything, because the EEG technique, the EEG which we did on myself and when I was sitting, there were not only alpha, not only theta, and few of the waves were gone beyond 30, that's gamma, very deep meditation. In that, very low voltage fast activity which came. And imagine these two technicians were in that room focusing, doing all the things. But they said, sir, you were actually gone. I don't know what happened to you in that 20 minutes, but your face has changed. I don't know. They told me, but I told them not to photograph me. When I tell you at the end, you photograph, not before. EEG anyway, it was recorded. It means all the aspect, the negative aspect which we commonly discuss in all the things. See, everybody, Swamiji, nobody will come to you. Swamiji, I am very happy. I have developed compassion. I have developed emotional intelligence. No, Swamiji, I am very tired. My negative thoughts are coming. I am feeling very lazy, too sleepy, depressed, anxious, restless, everything. Nobody will come to that. But here in this meditation, those negative things will go off. The positive things will come off. And your journey actually starts from there. The journey, the starting point is when you reach the health, then the next level will start.
Thank you so much.
Thank
So,
you.
back to Himali and Anupama. Please conclude the session.
Yes. So we had a lot of questions, and I think the questions will keep coming. The topic is such interesting. So we might want to do one more session with you, Dr. Singhvi, on this topic, where we can take those questions. So thank you, Dr. Singhvi, for joining us today and enlightening us with this knowledge of brain and how we can enhance our brain's capability with meditation and can live a better and healthier life. So I request you to share your official contact details if you can share with us. So if anybody wants to reach out to for consultation or asking any questions, they can.
Anupama, sorry, he can't share it because of his professional obligations.
Okay. The hospital's contact. Okay, no worries. Yeah. So then I think we can, if Dr. Nilay can share this.
So, is it this request? How you're going to respond to this another session with us, Dr. Singhvi? And there are so many praises for you. I really need one more session with you.
We'll definitely do on a very, very interesting topic very soon. And one question I would like to take from this from Martin Santiago. The papers of my presentation, whatever I have presented today, it is there on the net. Everything is there. Various papers are there from various authors. Whatever research has been done, you can type the keywords, functional MRI in meditation, EEG in meditation, compassion, so many things there are there. You can go to that papers, because he has written that the students will take it very seriously, this meditation. Meditation has to be taken seriously but happily also. Yeah.
Thank you so
ठीक है,
much.
we will, I think, we will discuss some other topic whenever you allow me this thing. And sincerely, I thank all the organizers and also Swamiji for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you, all of you, you can see these videos in the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. All the videos, the whole videos are uploaded in 2 different languages, Spanish and English. So if you want to see it again, you can watch it there. And thank you very much, Dr. Nilay. Thank you, Hemali.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Anupama. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Swamiji.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you, Hector. And thank you, everybody from Argentina and other countries. I saw some people from Cuba also. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody from India. Thanks a lot. Take care. Thank you, Dr. Singh.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.